A very good morning to you. Welcome to Rise and Shine Daily. Of course, it's a Friday and the beginning of the weekend. How are you doing? How did you wake up today? Anyways, my name is Janice Cobham and I am super excited to have you join us this morning. Welcome.
Good morning, Africa. Good morning, Nigeria. Good morning, Akwa Basibom State. Of course, it's a good day to rise and shine wherever you are. And my name is Uyai Anekan. Like Janice rightly said, how are you, my friend?
Yeah,
Another Friday is upon us.
yeah,
Getting
definitely.
into the weekend, drawing closer to the Yuletide season.
Christmas is next week, like you said
Yeah.
the other day. Just a quick reminder. And I know that yesterday we started, having the new notes in circulation,
Mm,
and the whole internet was flooded. People going to the bank because obviously it has to be an over-the-counter
yes.
transaction. You do not go to the POS or the ATM machines to actually get the new note. It has to be at the bank, and I've decided that I'm going to be heading to wallet. I won't use it, trust me. I'll just tuck it in there, and then every morning I'll just be looking at it. Oh,
New Naira
yeah,
notes.
new Naira
I'm
notes.
sure that has like a new dollar feeling.
Exactly.
That's awesome. We'd like to also encourage you to like, share, comment across all our social media platforms. Let's have your thoughts. Let's know, the things you think about the conversations we are going to have.
Definitely. Welcome to Rise and Shine Daily. And our conversation today is going to be a little bit of a mixed feeling conversation, but then it's all about what is happening in Nigeria. And so we are starting with our big stories this morning. Of course, stories making the rounds in the country. We'll start first from Anambra State, where the People's Democratic Party PDP presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar on Thursday in Anambra State, if elected as president in 2023 elections. He was making the pledge during the PDP presidential campaign rally in Oka, the state capital for Anambra State, and he promised to support the business environment in the southeast so that the business ingenuity of the people can thrive better, as well as promised to dredge the river Niger. He told the crowd, which comprised mostly party members and supporters, that he was stepping stone to the much talked about in this country. I have shown it in my action because this is the third time I am running with an Igbo man. If you really want to produce a president, then vote Atiku Okowa tickets. Of course, the PDP national chairman, Dr. Iyo Chayu, who spoke earlier during the campaign, commended the role played by some leaders in Anambra State during the party's formation, and he also declared that some members of the ruling All Progressives Grand Alliance, ABGA, in the state will soon defect to PDP. Serious issues here concern the governor of Anambra State, Charles Chukwuma Soludo, received the PDP presidential candidate that, of course, would say that they've had like a relationship over the years because when Charles Chukwuma Soludo was the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria at the time, Atiku was the vice presidential candidate and also the head of the economic team during which Charles Chukwuma Soludo was governor of Central Bank. So we'd see that there has been a long-standing relationship between these two people. Would also say that aside from the the how do I put it now? Aside from the Central Bank of Nigeria being on its own, like having its own powers, would also say that, that Atiku Abubakar at the time was also Charles Chukwuma Soludo's boss. But again,
Yeah.
we also see that Atiku has promised a lot of things, and I think that calls for a lot of concern. Yesterday we were talking about political promises and the fact that see the light of the day, just like we were talking about the second Niger bridge that,
Yeah.
had been on several administrative, corridors,
Promises. Yeah.
and then using it as campaign promises at every time. It never materialized until the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari. So now we have also seen the PDP presidential candidate now, Atiku Abubakar, coming out to give very lofty promises, like saying that, oh, I am a step, one stone ahead of you having an Igbo presidency, knowing fully well that this is what the Igbos really wanted. And one of the reasons why they have actually called for secession all the time is that they want a shot at the presidency as well. So Atiku saying that, is he going to pave the way after he becomes, president in 2023? Is that in 2015 or so, his running mate at the time was Peter Obi of the Labour Party that we have today. And then we're seeing him have Ifeanyi Okowa as his vice presidential, running mate and all of that. Yes, he's always had, Igbo people as his running mate and all of that, but does that make it possible that an Igbo man will one day become the president through his instrumentality, become the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? So these promises are quite lofty. They are things that we should think through before we even bring them to the populace and say, this is what I am going to do, when deep down in your mind, you know that you do not even have the powers to do that or even work towards it.
I think with regards to that particular promise, when he says he's the one person that makes the Igbo come closest to being president of Nigeria, I think we can just tally right by the fact closest they are coming into being president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The second man is as important as the first man at the same time. But of course, making promises is part of what campaigns are about. However lofty they are, now it's the place of Nigerians to break it down into smaller chunks that they can actually take in. Do you really believe that this person has the capacity? Do you believe that the person has the willingness to bring to bear all of this factionalized in terms of who they would give their support to in the coming general election? There is actually a sect of people who actually do believe in Peter Obi. Nonetheless, there are people who believe in the Atiku Kowa flag, the flag ticket, as it were, because of the Okowa figure in it, and maybe every other thing that Atiku Abubakar represents. But at the end of the day, we are very sure that the votes are going to. Something else that stands out is the fact that Charles Soludo gave a lot of support to Atiku's presence, in Anambra State, especially because Charles Soludo is of Abga, and that support that he gave was very, very enormous and made a very bold statement. Now, even the Igbos have come out to react on several grounds, covering different issues at the same time. But it's good to see that the campaign trains are moving, and in a couple of weeks, actually, it will be coming to an end. And we do actually hope that the conversations that the presidential candidates are pushing are able to reveal their policies and their manifestos very, very well, selling them as best as they could be sold to the Nigerian population and the electorate. But that's a good thing. And I think focus for the campaign in Anambra was let's make available a fair playing ground for all candidates to relay their plans. I think that is something that Charles Soludo really stood to represent in his backing of Atiku Abubakar and Ifeanyi Okowa in Anambra State. So these are very, very enormous activities we see there. Of course, like we continue to say, all of these presidential candidates are harping on the peculiar challenges available in those state governments, or even and poor road infrastructure, which seems to also be something really affecting the East. Some roads in the East are really, really deplorable, especially when you try to connect this side of the country and trying to traverse up north. Yes, there's actually like no roads in together. Then again, the situation of insecurity is also a big story in the East.
When you talk about unknown gunmen and
and get into the north or the north central, you need to be sure, because you do not want your vehicle to be traversing the roads on days where we have sit at home policies and all of those things. So these are things that the likes of Atiku Abubakar will put down
to battle with.
Yes, we'll have to battle with, and these are promises they'd have to make every time that they go to southeastern states to campaign. But my delight would be if someone would ask them, how exactly do you intend, to go about these things? Even if we look for an intelligent, watered down way to communicate the strategies but of which they want to use to handle these things. But it goes beyond, just like you said, everybody keeps saying, oh, we see insecurity is a problem, we are going to handle it. We see infrastructure as a problem, we are going to handle it. But it's good to see that they're making the
conversations that were held yesterday in Awka, Anambra State, is the fact that Charles Chukwuma Soludo has continually tried to, turn down presidential candidate for the Labour Party, Peter Obi, because we saw him also telling Atiku that only two presidential or two political parties or two people, are in this race actually for the presidency and all of that, which means that he does not even believe in the candidacy of the Labour Party presidential candidate, talking about Peter Obi. And at some point, you remember in the month of November when he made a comment that looked like this as well, where he said that there are only two contenders for the presidency and described the others as exciting drama. But then again, I know that Peter Obi, Charles Chukwuma Soludo now is of the ABGA party, and ABGA is, Anambra State is ABGA is traditionally, or rather Anambra is traditionally an ABGA party, and the ABGA have a presidential candidate. ABGA party has a presidential candidate representing them as well. So it's going to be a battle, a serious battle now, for Atiku Abubakar to be having votes coming from Anambra State, to that extent of them saying that Anambra will regard.
PDP. PDP used to be literally the only one, but it has become quite a number of branches. And some are now competing to take, like Apuga now being the third largest political party in Nigeria. Sometimes I think the prayer of the parents is that their children will become bigger and better than Anyway, we'll talk about that. Welcome to Anambra. And as I say, the intolerance that has come, our Anambra, the Amazons, Senator Obi, and of course, Okosisi. When you go to AIT, you hear him. If you don't know the name, and the Iko Obosi too. I didn't know. When did you sneak it? You just sneaked it. And all my brothers from neighboring states, and of course, the vice.
Well, I'm still of the opinion that Charles Soludo has his opinion to keep and have with regards to the whole Peter Obi thing. Of course, there are going to be people who will dance to that line of sentiment. There are other people who do not send whatever Charles Soludo represents in terms of his opinion. The people that have come out to say we are Igbos and we support Peter Obi's campaign, we support it. Those that don't support it, we've already established that cannot be a problem. Let's all of this fight, and whoever you prefer, let the results be seen at the polls. That's just the most effective thing. And something else you said about when promising that Anambra State is in the bag for PDP whilst they have a presidential candidate. It just goes to show how division can be, in the midst of all of these political things. Because when we have the governor giving such vehement statements about political parties and other candidates, then you can just see a handwriting on the wall. But nonetheless, it won't deter you. Now that breaks it down into three. You have your own presidential candidates who you don't even rate, although is in your party.
Exactly.
Yes,
because you're saying that you just have two contenders in the presidential race.
What happens to the person who is at the helms of the ticket for your party? So you don't even rate the person's abilities. That says a whole lot about the party itself, says a whole lot about Charles Soludo.
Exactly. I wanted to say that.
It says a whole lot about Charles Soludo as a person.
And maybe, for instance, I know that he might also have, presidential ambition in the future.
Eventually,
and then if he comes out tomorrow tomorrow to contest on that.
Oh, Nigerians will remind him about
Nigerians will definitely remind him of all the things that he has done. But again, it's his opinion, and he is entitled, totally entitled to his opinion in terms of what he does, in terms of what he says as well.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we go over now to a second story. Of course, yesterday we heard that the second Niger Bridge will be reopening or opening at 12 midnight, and so it did yesterday, where the federal government of Nigeria opened the second Niger Bridge between Asaba, Delta State and Onitsha in Anambra State to motorists for temporary use. The bridge was opened amid jubilation from road users. The government opened the bridge for temporary use for vehicles coming from the west to the southeast through Asaba from December 15, 2022 to January 15, 2023. Although it was a mixed feeling for residents of the zone, especially marketers who used to make brisk business during gridlock, as they complained that the opportunity for them to make huge sales in traffic may not arise during the Christmas season. Yeah, this was something I tried to bring up yesterday, where I said sometimes you go to that spot where you have the River Niger Bridge, and then you see a whole very thick gridlock, and you see different kinds of people making money out of a bad situation. Of course, you see extorters trying to extort money from drivers to make sure that they clear the way. You also see people, trying to peddle their goods to motorists and commuters to also buy. So it's going to be a different feeling altogether, because of course the highways are cleared right now, so there's not going to be that gridlock on the second Niger Bridge, or even on the very first River Niger Bridge as well.
It's good. Like we see the videos that we have on our screen, a lot of people seem to have a lot of smiles on their faces. They are really thrilled that this has actually come to pass, and it's an experience. I mean, since 1964, it has been in the books. Several administrations come and gone, but the Buhari-led administration has been able to give this a lot of birthing. So it's good to see that at the end of the day, there's something worth celebrating, even in the Yuletide season, for the Southeasterners. Highly commendable. If Buhari were to be campaigning, he would have a very strong point as of now.
To come back again for a third term, but that's not going to be possible. But then again, we'll give voice to some of the videos to hear what people said about it. A particular man trended yesterday. He was said to be named Sunday MM. He is the very first driver to cross the second Niger Bridge. Let's hear what Nigerians have to say about the second Niger Bridge.
Yeah, for me, it's a thing of joy. Today it's a reality. Those before, as based on the time frame they are given. Yeah, for me, it's a thing of joy. Today
I feel so happy. At least to reduce the hold up, to stay over 1 hour at the other bridge. I feel so happy. At least to reduce the hold up, to stay over 1 hour at the other bridge.
Of course, you can see the smiles. And the second video that we had, that's the man called Sunday MM. He happens to be the very first man, that crossed the River Niger, the second Niger Bridge yesterday. And he was everywhere on social media, and all of that. He trended, actually. And then you could see how whoever that was, the lady trying to also pop her head into the picture and the video and everything.
Being in the first vehicle to, traverse the second Niger Bridge, I mean, their names have gone down the sands of time.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's a really beautiful experience. Like Riley said, Nigerians are reacting back and forth. With regards to the Niger Bridge, a lot of people are excited what it holds, what it brings. But I think there's something I saw about this particular Niger Bridge issue that really held my heart. Now we are still having conversations about being able to have our oceans being dredged enough to host the vessels, and we know that River Niger is a really big body of water. But with the workings of the second Niger Bridge, some people are reacting that the expectation were to be that the second Niger Bridge will be high enough to have the berthing of really large vessels. But with the
yesterday in Anambra State, where he was telling Charles Soludo that that's one of the things he's going to do when he becomes the president. So why do we think it's not possible to also dredge?
Well, in terms of the fact that from where the bridge is constructed, the vessels can pass. because it's low. It's not as high enough that it will contain vessel activities.
Okay.
So that seems to be a problem. Yes, it might be something someone else would do, but if it was factored into the construction
Into
of
the
the
plan.
second, yes, into the second Niger bridge as of now, it will be easier than trying to find a fresh route altogether for you to be able to berth vessels in the River Niger, area, and talking about even having a port in, the southeastern region. So those are some of the reactions that are also standing out in terms of the conversations that we have with regards to the second Niger bridge.
I know that, dredging of rivers is highly very political, okay, because a river like the Calabar River has been on the conversation like forever now. Governments upon government after government, trying to call the attention of the, federal government to see how they can dredge the Calabar River to also allow larger vessels berth there and also open up, the state for very high economic activities. But that hasn't been done. And then we are hearing of the River Niger dredged so that economic activities can be fostered in that area. We also know that the Igbos are very good business people and very enterprising as well.
Yeah.
But the only river that seems to, or body of water that seems to be gaining so much attention is the Lagos rivers and the Lagos ports. And that is because I think that, politically, they want the concentration to be there.
There's a high monopoly.
Yes, even when it's anymore and all of that, congestions and all of that, the federal government seems to not want to also open up other areas. I think if they do, they will also be getting revenues from those states, to the federal, to the central. Okay, but it seems to be highly very political. We do not seem to know the reason why all of that is being held back.
There's literally nothing that doesn't suffer monopoly in Nigeria because of some of the systems that we run. That if we're even hinging it on a presidential candidate like Atiku Abubakar, who keeps talking about decentralizing the power of the federal government on, running certain sectors in Nigeria, then that will be a very big deal, because we are looking at to make just money. You're looking at the fact that other African countries will be able to come and do business, sea business, in our waters if we drench, if we make available more seaports. So some of this kind of infrastructural development should be done in such a way that it looks beyond the immediate need. Yes, because of the kinds of money that is put in, there are capital intensive infrastructural development. Kudos to President Muhammadu Buhari. But when we have people sit on a board to decide that we are going to take on this project, let's look at the futuristic benefits of projects that are done in our country. If we know that in 20-30 years down the line, after having a second Niger bridge, there will be another need that will rise in this area of the nation, then let us put it in place at the beginning. So I think those are some of the things that are very important.
Yeah, very, very important as we look forward to more infrastructural developments across the nation. I think that's one of the things that, has brought about a lot of sentiments and brought about a lot of infights. And congratulations to those that are enjoying the second Niger bridge right now. And at this point, we'll take a breather and then we'll join Mary Joseph, who's standing by for the news briefing. When we come back, of course, we'll be taking our trend stories. Something happened yesterday which was very pathetic in the Kubwa area of Abuja, where a train actually ran into a car and killed a woman. And also, we will be looking at our focus story today, dignity in labor. And guess what? I won't let the cat out of the bag on who is going to be our guest. But when we return very soon, of course, other programs on Rise and Shine will definitely continue. Just stay with us.
One truth not often told is about the transformation that Africa has undergone in recent decades. Africa is shaping its own detail and the color of the African continent. Join Uyai Anyekan every Tuesday and Thursdays at 4:30 p.m. Spotlight Africa, telling the African story.
Season's greetings from Spectrum TV.
A knowledge of global businesses, economic activities, a new wave of the stock market, forex market, cryptocurrencies, and NFTs creates new dynamics towards emerging market millionaires and billionaires. From the dot-com era to the oil booms, the fundamental news drives the market. This is Business 360, taking you to the business around the globe. Join us from 11:30 a.m. to 12 p.m. weekdays, exclusive on Spectrum Television. Business 360, your prism to world businesses.
As of state and government
to recover from the lapses into county.
Morning and welcome to your morning news brief on Spectrum, live from Uyo. I am Mary Joseph. We begin with the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, as it is closely monitoring the spending patterns of top politicians to forestall use of funds to influence the electoral process ahead of the 2023 elections. Chairman of the EFCC, Abdulrasheed Bawa, said the commission was careful not to invite some of the politicians for questioning in order not to be misconstrued as political witch hunting. Away from that, Director General of the National Emergency Management Agency, Mustafa Ahmed, is asking stakeholders to come up with measures and procedures for averting fire outbreaks, early detection and timely response to save lives and minimize economic losses. Ahmed, who made the observation in a statement in Abuja at an early warning to Nigerians against fire outbreaks during the Harmattan, regretted that many lives and properties worth billions of naira have been lost to uncontrolled fire across the nation. On security, the theater commander Operation Hadi Kai, Major General Christopher Musa, says about 83,000 Boko Haram terrorists have surrendered with families. The commander, who gave the figure when he paid a courtesy visit on Yobe State Governor Mai Budin at the government house, Damaturu, said that the number of 41,000 are about children who would have become Boko Haram fighters. Let's head now to the foreign scene, where U.S. President Joe Biden has affirmed his support for the African Union to join the G20 group of large economies as the permanent member. Speaking at a U.S.-Africa Leaders Summit event, Biden said the United States was looking to increase collaboration in all areas. And finally, in sport, Fernando Santos has quit as coach of Portugal following the team's shock World Cup quarter-final loss to Morocco, with Jose Mourinho named as a leading candidate to take over. In a statement, the Portuguese Football Federation said an agreement was reached with the 68-year-old Santos to end the journey that began in September 2014. We'll have details of these stories and more in our news at 12.
government Secretary General, distinguished delegates.
His Excellency Lagos, Nigeria voting for Spectrum TV to improve 45cc consecutive counting.
The month-long festival of football is about to begin.
It's a quadrennial spectacle that has the world fixated.
Comes the free kick, pushed onto the ball by Attila. Oh, lovely touch from Guerrero, big save.
Football's biggest festival, the moment players have prepared for their in-depth game analysis. Test your football knowledge and win memorable prizes at the TAF Media Qatar 2022 World Cup Experience. Venue, Discovery Park, Udomana, Uyo. Watch Messi do his last dance.
Messi, Manchester, get the Maradona.
Ronaldo explode. Neymar and the Samba Boys. Mbappe and the Blues. Mane and the Teranga Lions of Senegal. Do not just watch the World Cup. Experience it at the TAF Media Qatar 2022 World Cup Experience. Venue again, Discovery Park, Udo Umana Uyo. From November 20th to December 18, 2022. Stand by for the high anxiety and expectations. Football fans, are you?
Season's greetings from Spectrum TV.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, it's still Rise and Shine coming to you live from the beautiful hills of Abuja-Kaduna. And of course, it's Friday and it's a lifestyle Friday for us here, but we just returned from the news. The Atiku Kowa campaign flag has moved and touched down in Anambra State, where we had the governor of Anambra State, Governor Charles Soludo, give enormous support to the PDP campaign train that passed through his state. And also we also saw reactions of Nigerians about the opening of the second Niger bridge. Good air, good vibes by Nigerians. A big congratulations and thank you to the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari. Now we'll just move up to the next story, which is rather on a sad note. Remember, that was in March of this year when we had a train abduction along the Abuja-Kaduna rail, and for several months that rail line was closed down to rehabilitate it and get other things on board. Eventually, the Abuja-Kaduna railroad was just reopened for the train reportedly crushed a woman who was trying to drive past the train line, and she died actually. And it's such a sad story because I know that, remembering from basic social sciences, when we were taught, we have been advised never to drive across rail lines. But when we live in a country that for the longest time our train our train system never really used to work, so that there's some places that you get into in Nigeria, you literally have a market going on a rail line. But for God's sake, you live in Abuja and you know that the rail lines have been opened and there are activities going on. Now trains can literally ply the roads. Why would you still be driving across rail lines? This is really sad, and it's really sad at this moment, just a few weeks after reopening the train lines, and then now we have another accident still. That Abuja Kubwa axis. It's just a sad one.
Yeah, definitely. Of course, eyewitnesses talking to newsmen said the incident occurred a few minutes drive to the Kubwa train station, while the woman who was driving in a private vehicle attempted to cross the rail line as the train was coming at high speed. Of course, the remains of the victim have been evacuated by security personnel, while the damaged car was immediately removed from the rail track in order not to cause fear. I remember while staying in Port Harcourt, we had a train station run, or rather a train track run through the Mile 1 markets. And whenever a train wants to come, you hear the horn from a distance.
Yes.
So it actually allows, and there are also what we call train officers. So once that horn is heard, the train officers begin to alert the market women that sell by the railway. Aside from shops, on the aisle, you also have people, traders,
who come really close.
Close to the railway to put their wares. For some people that do not have stalls, they come to the rail line to put their wares there and sell. So when you have the station officers, what they do is they alert people there's an incoming train. Okay, so people immediately, before the train even gets close, people immediately begin to remove themselves and their wares from the train line. That is what is customary. That is what is supposed to be done. So you hardly hear situations where you say a train crushed someone in Mile 1 markets. Okay, so for this particular incident now, I know that a lot of Nigerians are reacting towards it. One of the major reaction is that, wasn't this a suicide mission, a suicide attempt by this particular woman? Because another video that I saw, she was just parked by the railway, by the rail track. She was just parked there. And then by the time the train came very close, she tried to open the door and run away. And before then, the train rammed into the car. So why would a car be parked on a train track is the very first major question. And then according to older reports, the car was wound up and she was playing music. So what was the intention in the first place? And then another thing is, why would a car even have a track across the railway? The railway should be something that is specifically meant for trains to pass. So the government should not, because we're hearing stories that, oh, they're supposed to be like there's an a passage where cars can actually pass across the rail, the rail to the other side of the road. Why should it be?
Most
We
of our
know
rail
the
lines are
speed
constructed
at
that way.
which trains pass. And then again, the story says, okay, so if the driver was supposed to use an auxiliary brake, but if he had done that at that instance, then would have had more casualties to handle. But then my major question is, why was that woman parked at the middle of the train track at that time?
I think
if she was going to drive, why didn't she drive past? And didn't she hear the horn of the train that comes from a distance?
Yeah, that's the question. Was the train hooting the horn from the distance? That's something else. Because if it's not a suicide attempt, if a train is coming from a distance and you are parked around that area or want to use the cross line, you will know that the train is coming. And you know that the trains move with top speed. You will know either to wait for the train to pass before you continue your journey, or you know how sometimes we are in traffic and we quickly calculate, oh, this car is coming, but in less than 1 minute I can actually do this turn. You know that that's what some drivers do. You actually know that this is wrong timing, that vehicle coming is on top speed, but people just calculate, oh, I can actually really do a quick run and there'll be no problem. So you can imagine that if the train was actually hooting and she's like, oh, let me do a quick run, it won't get to me, and then you get into the rail line and the train gets you. So there's several speculations around, her death, as it were, but it's either a sheer act of carelessness, but I really believe the woman in question is to blame. You will not blame the train operators. You will not blame the federal government. It is not part of what Nigeria has done to anybody. Because
but again, I think that another argument or line of thoughts now is the fact that the government could actually do like barricades, to barricade the train tracks from both ends now.
Yeah, but do they really want to do those things?
It does not allow, people cross or cars even cross. So for that now, it's
a safety measure.
Yeah, a safety measure, and all of that. But just like you said, was the train hooting enough to alert people that a train was actually coming?
Yeah, because some of these rail lines actually cross our city centers. Yes, it's crossing roads that people use, communities that are vibrant and all of those things. So it's expected that the honk of the train is supposed to be hooted as you're coming 2 minutes away from when you're going to get to the next cross. Everyone should hear. But then something you really raised, if it was a suicide attempt by the woman, just yesterday we also had DJ who is this now, his name escapes me, but a 40-year-old influential DJ in the United States, Twitch, thank you, commit suicide. And we are beginning to ask, this is the end of the year, there's a tendency for a lot of this to happen. We have the Third Mainland Bridge, being known for that activity. Yes, but I feel like, just to drag this home, we need to be able to look out for each other in the season where we're living in. Sometimes a lot of the people that have a lot of smiles on their faces look really strong, because like an average Nigerian will be a woman who drives a car as expensive as that in this Nigerian economy. What exactly is she committing suicide for? Nigerians, be your brother's keeper. If a vehicle has been parked on a train line that you currently know is active, why, like you said, why are there no train officers who will go, hello man, why are you being parked
Aside
here?
from that, the train officers normally have a flag and it's red in color, so they do this for you to move out, know that what is coming is danger.
Yes, so there's a lot of questions. There's a lot
of questions.
of questions.
That's where the government actually comes into play here. So they cannot be totally ruled out. Sorry, I cut you in,
Of
but
course,
continue with your line of
we
thought.
actually can't always, generally rule out the government. I really buy the idea of let's barricade if we can, but all of the safety measures, do we even know if we have the safety officers, put on the entire rail line from, Abuja to Kaduna and all of those things? But these are important issues. Let's try to check out for, each other. Let's be sure that we do not have sad stories like this. Now, the woman is gone. She can't come and tell her own part of the story of what exactly happened. But we need to, be on the watch out. If you see someone doing something wrong, parked in a wrong lane, something that can be very dangerous, you should go and say, oh, excuse me, please, this is wrong timing. And I feel like we should have and know the train timings. Now, this comes back to the safety guards for the train. If you know that at 1 p.m. a train has left Kaduna en route Abuja, it means that all security measures for that particular train that is en route should be heightened, including making sure that there is nobody on the train line.
Including making sure that we do not have another kidnap attack along that
of course those are all the security measures that we need to put in place. Because now one would say, is the Kaduna train line doomed for evil? Right, they just resumed duty. And you know how Nigerians can be very what would I call it now, we have connotations for everything that happens. Superstitious, and all of those kinds of things. But it's a very, very sad story.
It is quite
a really sad story. We coming into the Yuletide season, we need to be more careful. Road accidents, rail line accidents of this sort, we need to be more proactive as to the things we do to safeguard ourselves. Also, what we experience during the Yuletide.
We've been having serious fire incidents across the nation, I think, the past couple of weeks now.
So there's a lot of dryness and wood and all of those things, and even for drivers, you're going to experience a lot of fog in the evening and fog in the early hours of the morning. So you need to be careful when you're driving and all of those kinds of things. Let's just be careful and reduce the number of deaths and mournings that we have around us.
Yeah, you just raised a very important point here when we talk about the Yuletide season and driving and trying to drive within your speed using the second Niger bridge.
Yes,
don't even try to add 101 percent to your driving speed or your driving limit. But then again, I think that we as commuters too, or travelers, we also have to be very conscious. What are the little security tips that you need to take up? Of course, when you're traveling, tell somebody that you can confide in, that, oh, I'm going to so place and all of that. So don't just take your bags and then you're
don't hop into a vehicle that no one knows.
Try as much as possible to go to parks, identifiable parks, to take your buses or your cars for transportation, especially when it's commercial, because we find out that difference in the price fare. So this one is cheaper. Let me just stand by the roadside and pick my bus to where I'm going to. If something happens at the end of the day, will you be able to tell people that will you be able to trace where that car was coming from? You will not. So I think these are little tips that travelers should put into consideration while applying the road this Yuletide period. Of course, that's the video there. I think we can see it from the beginning when the woman opened the door of the car to try to come out, and before she could even come out of the car, the train had already ramped into her. So I really don't know. It's really a sad situation, but God will definitely help us. That's just what I can say at this period.
Comfort for the family who's been bereaved. The middle-aged woman and all of those things.
It's just a sad way to end the year.
It's a sad way to end the year, and just something came back to my mind. When it feels like people have been in such a dark place for a long time, I feel like it's important to say that ending your life is not the best solution for the dark place that you have been, because you really don't know how close you are to a breakthrough. It might have really been dark and really choking, but I feel like hanging in there just one more day. Just try to live, one more day. When it chokes today, do today and be done. Tomorrow, try again. But ending your life is not the solution to to the problems that you are facing. I know that sometimes it feels like, oh, people say talk to someone. People might even tell you they spoke to someone, people didn't take them seriously,
or even use the problems against them.
Yes, or even use the problems against them. Oh yes, yeah, you're the one that did this.
That's the one that even
yourself,
pushes people away from telling people what they are going through, because you tell me in strict confidence what you're going through, the next minute you're hearing it somewhere else, the next minute people are throwing tantrums,
and that's devastating.
At you, and it's devastating. I told you something in strict confidence, why not try to help me? But sometimes people turn it around and use it against the people that
there.
Yeah,
Suicide should never be your option. Try again. I mean, I think that is why it's important for us to educate ourselves, listen to documentaries, listen to people's stories of how they bounce back from really dark spots, and I think that will help you, because when you know there is an allegation, part of the story surrounding this lady's death, that she was in the car listening to music.
Yeah.
Janice, we do not know the kind of music she was listening to. If at all she was really suicidal, she might have been in that car listening to sad music to help her really take her life, right? But if you know that you have these kinds of problems, you're suicidal, you're depressed, look for testimonies of people who've bounced back from difficult places. Listen to them over and over. I mean, we are energized by the things that we hear. So choose what you're hearing and just leave for the sake of that one person who does truly love you, right? Because sometimes we make an excuse. Before you came into the dark place, what were your dreams? Hold on to that and keep pushing.
That's really a fantastic one, I must say. We feel for the family of those, that lost their loved one yesterday. But at this point, we'll just take a very short break. And when we come back, we'll be joined by our guest. He's a young man who sells the educated agidi, and that's how he puts it. But then there's something different about this young person, and that's what stands him out. And some people say it's his trademark for, getting a lot of attention and...
Solid waste is a major environmental challenge in most Nigerian cities. Waste generation rates in Nigeria is estimated at 0.65 to 0.95 kilograms per capita, which gives an average of 42 million tons of waste generated annually. This is more than half of 62 million tons of waste generated in sub-Saharan Africa annually, and where and how to channel this waste become a huge problem for the nation. This exposition examines the problems and prospects of solid waste management in some selected Nigerian cities using the mixed method of data collection. Findings reveal that waste management in Nigeria is largely monopolized by the agencies of state governments, which have limited capacities to tackle the problems of solid waste management in their cities. In addition, 52% of waste generated are organic waste, which creates additional disposal problems. Although the problems of solid waste management in Nigeria range from poor collection and disposal methods, lack of poor management database, insufficient financial resources, non-compliance of laws, and lack of awareness on dangers of poor sanitary habits. This is centered on an argument that a robust waste database, strict policies, and regulation are important for effective solid waste management in Nigeria. In many instances, such management capacities do not even exist. Nigeria is believed to be generating over 42 million in almost all the cities. Although the composition of municipal waste may vary slightly from one place to another, depending on the level of education, civilization, income level, lifestyle, and culture, generally, municipal wastes are usually composed of food residue, papers, wood, fabrics, metal scraps, sludge, cans, and plastic waste, etc. However, the growing use in the municipal waste. In Akwa Ibom State, for example, over 15,000 tons of municipal and household waste is generated on a daily basis. Meanwhile, the Greater Akwa Ibom Clean-up Campaign, flagged off on Saturday, October 10, 2020, was among the programs conceived in sync with global best practices that helped the state. In Uyo, the state capital, are of different opinion about the state of cleanliness of the states. To consolidate on this feat, the governor of the state, Udom Emmanuel, in line with the agenda he set for Akwa Ibom Environmental Agency, however, charged the State Environmental Protection and Waste Management Agency, ACSEMA, to maintain the tempo of ensuring the state retains its pride of place. Other citizens whose businesses have been seriously affected by non-evacuation of refuse around the environment are not left out.
Certainly, it has been quite a worrisome issue on us as a school, as an institution of learning, because we have to teach the children what we opt for, and they have to imbibe certain examples of what is practiced in the environment very well. As it is all quite worrisome, especially when it comes to do with a very close environment like us. You know that just a stone throw, you have this dump site just almost by the veranda of an institution of learning such as us. This thing has come to be a great menace, a great disturbance to us, polluting the environmental air where we're supposed to have had that fresh air beaming into the environment at all time as God has given it to us. But oftentimes, the agency that is responsible for disposition of these refuse have decided to play a lackadaisical attitude on it. They don't care. That careful attitude of the people and the locals that throw and dump the refuse haphazardly is actually not helpful at all. I believe, as I've earlier said, that charity begins at home. Both the occupants of the closer environment should take notice that anywhere container, instead of littering it around. Like here, when we started here, when we came into this axis, it wasn't as devastated as this. But what we are seeing is as if the agency that is responsible to pack this refuse, to dispose it into the proper dump site, is giving us a charge to leave this place immediately, because it is difficult for us to contain this littering of this refuse, and they don't pack it on time. And many a time they leave it here up to 3-4 days, especially when it is into a weekend where they are not working. You will come back to see that on Monday, which we suppose is foul odor from the dump site. We are pleading, if there is any access, any speaker, any scripts that could get to the government table, let it be well informed. We are not against the government. We are not against any agency taking up the contract, but we are appealing to them. They should transfer this particular dump site to a more appreciable access. Thank you.
It is pertinent to note that citizens, as part of their civic responsibility, have a role to play in helping government in achieving a waste-free society.
That the state government have really put up a lot of effort in making sure that the states achieve cleanliness. But there are some challenges we have. I am staying in Calabar to Highway, and most of the challenge we have here is that most individuals dump their refuse on the gutters, and these have really affected the environment. And I will encourage the government to create a lot of sensitization. With this sensitization, more individuals will know how to store their waste and how to dump it appropriately. I've been in Rivers State, I've been to Abia State, and I will compare it with with Abia State. If I'm to compare Akwa Ibom with Abia State, I think I will accept with the question you've asked me that Akwa Ibom State is a clean state. But if you want to compare it with maybe other states that have been doing well in terms of waste management, I would think we need to do a little bit more by making sure that the ministry that is in charge of waste evacuation do that appropriately on time. Because most of the things, the challenge we have is that most waste take a longer time to be evacuated. Not that they are not being evacuated, but it takes a longer time. So if there are more hands, engage more hands on it, I think those things can be addressed. Some persons hold the view that it is the role and responsibility of government for environmental cleanliness. But to me, I would say no. It is 90% the role of individuals. It is 90% of the roles of individuals. Like you find out that during environmental sanitation, many persons only clean their rooms. They don't clean the environment. They only clean their rooms and dump those things in the environment. You find out in Akwa Ibom, most of the times it's the government that are working on the drainage. And people are dumping refuse on the drainage. And it's very, very bad, which if citizens are making sure that their drains are being cleaned by them, I think it will go a long way. The flooding we are facing today will not be the way it is now. So I think the individuals...
From the Itam Market access, getting round to there, to where we have the central abattoir, then coming down to this. In fact, this, I'm telling you, the access that you can transient from Calabar to access down to central abattoir, cut across the waterboard road down to Itam Market, then move back to Calabar to access. Certainly you'll be sure that you can give it up to 50%.
Poor disposal of refuse has become a serious problem for the people of the state who live around, for example, markets, houses, waterways, streets, motorways, land, etc.
If you move a little bit from this place to near almost that platform junction, there is a place that, what do they call it? So that drainage system that was built by Senator Godswill Akpabio's administration. So, but now there is no space for water to even move from that place to that place now, because refuse has been dumped there for quite a long time. What I understand about environment is that it needs to be adequately taken care of. But the way people are dumping refuse like that, sometimes we need to harbor and encourage this principle of hygiene ourselves, because when you know how to keep yourself clean, I believe you will know how to take care of your own environment. But the way people are dumping it, some people are not just helping government. I know governments have done their best, but they need to do more by employing more hands and the provision of trucks that will help in transferring those refuse from that place to where it should be, should also be taken into consideration.
According to an environmental consultant, Lawrence John, there are enormous business opportunities for the state in turning waste into wealth, as well as generating employment and revenue through waste to wealth initiatives.
Well, if you say waste itself generally is what? Job creation. We could use it for job creation. And you could see what the Akwa Ibom state government is doing through the waste management board. At least some individuals are being recruited to evacuate waste. So, but what I would say is that let them reach out to consultants like us so that they can issue a such contract to many firms. So that if we have many firms that are handling the waste evacuation, I think we, on the other hand, will create more job by including more persons to carry out the evacuation of waste. That's one, on waste management. Two, you find out that I believe that most waste are recycled, and the issue of people going to dump sites to pick things are making some of those dump sites being prone to attacks, because sometimes you could go there, you find out that most persons that are there, most of them trying to attack people to get some things there. So what I would say that government should provide more waste disposals closer to the people. And when they provide such, you find out that we have a lot of waste disposal sites closer to the people, and people should be attached to there to work there, at least 5 persons each to work in a site, waste dump site. You find out that it will go a long way. By create, if we have like, let's say 200 of such in Uyo Metropolis alone, at least 5 times 200 of those sites, you have created job. So that those people will make sure that their job is to move those waste, not so that it will not be closer to the road, because most of the waste are on the road. So if you recruit 5 in each of those waste disposal sites, it creates a lot of job for people.
Well, a positive change can only be taken place if we work on our attitude, because everything is based on humans' attitude. Someone like me, I know that dumping refuse in a quota is not good. That's why I provide a waste bin in my place, so that when it is full, I take it to where it should be dumped. But some people, sometimes the lackadaisical nature of behaving, in our society makes it, not to be something meaningful. Because, so to me, positive change will also be taking place if we just decide from ourselves that we should no longer dump, refuse in a quota or indiscriminately. Yes, if we dispose it well, the thing will, our environment will be kept clean.
Akwa Ibom State is our own thing, our own state. And as I'm standing, I'm telling you, I am the government. So I should not look for any other person to come and govern the state for me. So if I know this state belongs to me, this environment belongs to me, I cannot run out of here. We heard of America and looking so fantastic like a new heaven. Then if we so decide, if we so determine, if we so decided that we should create a new heaven in our own closer environment, then as I said from the beginning, that charity begins at home. Let everybody, every person, every Akwa Ibomite, both strangers, visitors, and the inhabitant, knows that this environment is our own. As such, we should not filter it by littering refuse all over the environment. Let us inculcate in us the spirit, the discipline of dumping our refuse where it should be dumped properly and accurately, and no other issue.
It is obvious that there are factors preventing environmental development. These may include insufficient funding, rapid population growth, poor investment in infrastructure development, low-skilled administrative and managerial personnel badly versed in technical issues, lack of effective systems for data management, uncoordinated institutional functions, inaccurate planning, legal framework in need of serious improvements and corrections, non-compliance with existing laws, wrong attitude of the population to waste disposal, uncontrolled urbanization, lack of scientific research, weak political will, or on the part of leading state officials are engaging in timely evacuation of waste within their locality.
Welcome back. It's still Rise and Shine, and we're coming to you live from the beautiful hills of Abuja-Kaduna. We sincerely want to apologize for our inability to bring you the focus interview for this morning, a constraint strictly on the part of our guest. But at this point, we'll be moving up with, more lifestyle conversations. Is lifestyle is the fact that a lot of emphasis was placed on the role of every individual and every citizen in helping to avert the impact of waste that we have around us. That's a big issue, Janice. There's a lot of waste around us. There's a lot of management need. We need to be able to convert, some of this waste and all of that. But and I think something else that stands out is Akwa Ibom is relatively one of the most cleanest states in Nigeria. And a lot of people have begun to ask, please, we need to retain that, cloud of glory. And we hope that citizens will continue to keep their environments clean. Someone said something in that report. They said, most of us on the days of sanitation, we only clean our homes and our rooms and not our environments. We had visuals of gutters filled with plastics and all of that. If every single person will clean the gutter in front of their house, or in front of their business place, then we will all make progress to having free ways for water to run in the rainy season and all of that. But we need to live in a clean environment. All of the waste that we are being surrounded with is affecting the air that we breathe, and it's increasing the health hazards that we have. So we need to become more proactive people.
Yeah, and I think I like something that someone said in that particular report, that Akwa Ibom is our own. So when you own something, you make sure that that thing is good enough to dump their refuse in drainages when they know very well that they cannot dump refuse in their own homes. So it's more like you bringing refuse, sweeping your house and still putting the dirt on your bed and then sleeping on it. How will it feel like if you do that? But then again, we know that there's always the angle of government. What should government do in terms of evacuation? Because we find somewhere like the Uyo City Road now that is more like a hip ground for dirt, overfilling and causing a lot of pollution in the air, and people asking government, you need to do something about evacuation of this dirt, mainly for the fact that this particular position area is very close to residential areas. So we find that happening, and we are also asking the government to intervene in that regard. But like the report says, 70% of what we have as health hazards and indiscriminate disposition of dust today in our society is man-made. It's caused by us as individuals, and we need to do better when we're looking at situations that would cause health hazards for us. I think that should even be more paramount when you think about the health hazards that dumping refuse indiscriminately will cause for us. And again, I think coming from the heels of that as well, what is government doing in order to see how they can begin a recycling process, a recycling process of processing our dirt and making it become energy? I know people that recycle dirt and use them for very artistic designs and all of that. So we should, inculcate that into our
even in very advanced technologies, it can be converted into energy and other resources that can help us enormously. So I mean, nylons and plastics take upwards of 40 years to decompose. Yes, upwards of 40 years.
Did they even decompose at all?
So we need to gather it and make it into other things that can be used. We see used tires being turned into chairs and all of those really beautiful things.
Furnitures.
But that will also demand that we have a government that is deliberate about creating enabling environments for entrepreneurs who want to recycle waste to be able to do so. It's going to be capital intensive. We also need environments, we need the machines, we need the laws that help.
That's live here. And so we take a breather just to make him join us on set this morning. Just stay with us.
Premium motor spirits, popularly known as Phil, has since seen gradual increase from the official price of 165 naira to about 200 to 250 naira a litre, while some stations are not even selling. With this development, Nigerians have had to endure untold hardship as petroleum products happen to be the life wire of economic activities in the country. Some motorists who spoke with Spectrum Television lamented how the price increase has affected them.
It's been so boring and so worrisome, whereby from 169 naira to 230. So the little you have, you can get the fuel you want.
Honestly, it has not been easy. You can imagine we buying fuel from 65,000 in the previous years, 165, 120, 179. Today they are telling us it's like from here, I think the meter is 235 naira. Now I want to fill my tank, and my tank will contain up to 90 something liters, and I should be paying up to 20 something thousand. You can imagine that the difference is too much. Honestly, it's painful. The government need to do something. They really need to do something.
With the hike in fuel price, food prices have also shot up due to the rising cost of transportation.
I affect very well. Say young tanga me ama took raful. I took bondiria. Say business edikaya because if I na foruka could have full into mimi. Nzongurwa. If I na bu kan rukuba by 15 naira na save.
The implication of this protracted hike in the price of fuel is increase in the cost of living and doing business. Looking at the facts that, according to the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, no fewer than 133 million Nigerians, representing 63% of the population, are currently living in multi-dimensional poverty. Edidion Martin, reporting for Spectrum Television.
Welcome back. It's still Rise and Shine, and we are coming to you live from the beautiful hills of Abuja-Kaduna, and of course, Lifestyle Friday. And we're going to quickly hop into that lifestyle conversation with a young man who has distinguished himself with a very different kind of trade and the influence that he carries about, this particular trade. On our set this morning is Mr. Eteng, who will be here to tell us about his story. Guess what? He sells agidi. Do you remember agidi from way back?
Yeah.
When you went to primary and secondary school, everyone will rush. But there is a touch of ingenuity that he adds to how this is done. And that's why we have him here on set on the Lifestyle Friday to have this live discussion with us this morning. Good morning, Mr. Eteng.
Good morning.
Good to have you here.
Thank you very much.
How's the journey here?
Well, I really thank God. I was supposed to be here before now,
Yes.
but based on the bad road and a lot of that. But I still thank God.
Okay, you made it at last.
Yeah.
Thankfully, the guests can listen to you. The audience can, listen to you at the end of it. So, educated Agidi.
Actually, before I started, I was actually serving my auntie, By then I was selling the local agidi. I considered being local then. But at some point, after I've stayed with my auntie for about 9 years, 8 months, call it 10 years. So I was like, no. When I started mine, one thing about we are in the modern world whereby today, you need to modernize your whatever thing. You have to bring it up. You need an upgrade. You understand? So I had to I don't know how to say it. Like I don't really know how to say it, but I just have to call it educated
agidi is like the upgrade of what you used to do with your aunt.
Yes, and another thing is the name also brings attention. It attracts a lot of person because sometimes when I go, people say educated agidi.
What makes it educated agidi? What are the features?
School,
did you go
primary
to
school, secondary school, or even the university? Why is it educated?
I just like to, that's the name I like to give to my brand, and what makes it educated is the brand.
Okay, is that when you call it educated agidi, is that because you have gone to school and you are a graduate yet selling agidi, or it's because of some of the condiments, ingredients, and styles of delivery that you give to it? Why did you call it educated?
Of course, yeah, I call it educated because of one, my dressings.
Okay.
My dressing one, and two, the taste. You can't compare the taste of my agidi with others, seriously. So you can compare, and other things I add to it. My deliveries and a lot of that, everything is just reliable.
Okay. Now, another question I want to ask you is, now, you're educated.
Yeah.
You went to school. What did you read?
Well, I stopped in middle high school.
Middle high school?
Yeah.
Okay.
I stopped in middle high school.
But as a growing child now, because I know that growing up, we all had dreams. I don't know what you wanted to be, but
I've doing what I wanted to be a communicator.
Okay, so we all had dreams of something.
Of course, yeah.
So share with us, please.
My vision was to become a journalist.
Oh, wow. And here you're on set. Okay.
Of course, yeah. So this is just the beginning.
Okay.
This is just the beginning, and I pray to God that everything will come true. It's just that, the agidi business, there's a level I wanted to get to before then I can now further my education.
Okay.
Do you understand?
So for you getting into selling of educated agidi, is it so? Someone was saying something on Facebook yesterday. The person says, maybe we'll talk about your dressing later, but the person says, if you can dress this good, then you should have money enough to open like a small shop and not hawk it around like this.
Well, one thing about everything is, one, you have to start somewhere. You have to start somewhere. You don't just, wake up one day and become something. So you have to start somewhere.
But you've been doing this for quite years that you have, because I know you are invited to platforms within Akwa Ibom, the business shows and all of those things to even expose your educated agidi. Don't you have investments that could help you to, like you talked about, upgrading your business, taking it to a point where we have an educated agidi spot in town?
Well, yeah, what you're saying is true. Because like now my business is registered. By next year. Probably next year, either January, February, in between January, February, I just pray to God, everything will come true, because we have vision of upgrading the business, taking it to another level, whereby, hawking it on the street, it's really affects, it's the kind of stress.
And I feel like you've already made enough statements with hawking it, so it will be easy for you once you've opened a spot in town with all of the ads, maybe even on radio, on Facebook and all the likes. It will be easy for anyone who remembers the feeling of eating educated agidi to drive to where you are.
Yeah. And so another thing is, we have some challenges in the business, and the challenges are, one is financial.
Okay.
We are not financially stable, but all what we are doing, we are trying to make sure that we gather money, the little money, whatever little money we have, to use and start up from somewhere. Because what I want to start off with, I would have loved to have an eatery, but since there's not enough money, so my vision now is to make sure that I have a kiosk, like I can have a kiosk whereby I produce the agidi after from the production room, now forward it to the just take it to the spot, and I'll have a staff who will be staying there to make sales, to sell the educated agri, and the person will just stay there and be selling it.
So and then you go back to school or something?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So we have places like the Akwa Ibom business showroom, where people who are, producing Akwa Ibom indigenous things go to display their goods. How come you have not leveraged on that opportunity? They currently have expanded and they have 2 showrooms within the city metropolis. How come you don't have a stand, or why don't we walk into those supermarkets and... Okay. So, there seems to be a lot of promises.
Yes, let's even talk about your dressing now. What is really it about your dressing? Why did you come up with dressing so good, and the next thing we are seeing on your head is agidi, a tray of agidi?
Well, I'm a kind of man. I love to be clean.
Okay.
Love cleanliness.
Okay.
Like to be cleaner
for you, because the truth is, if I'm walking on the road now and I see him this dressed and then he has a tray of agidi on his head, the next thing I'll be looking at is, whoa, why is such a cute person, selling agidi like this? Yes. So is there a strategy, a market strategy for you?
Yeah, well, that's one of the marketing strategies. And one, I have so many other persons, but based on how other persons dresses, and that sometimes you look at them, you look at their dressing, so disgusting, a lot of that, it's always it's not always encouraging. So while I really dress that way just to make sure that other people are just to make sure, to make people understand what I'm doing. I'm not just doing it because I'm in the same way I do. You understand?
Okay, so, sorry, another thing I want to ask you based on your dressing now, has anyone in the space of the 4 years that you've been doing this business, and like you said, you have very influential people buy your products, politicians buy your products, so none of them have ever walked up to you and say, hey, young man, you have to stop this business, I have a job for you?
Well, someone one time ago on Facebook,
okay, you're contented, sir?
I'm contented with the business. So what I want is empowerment.
To be able to expand your business.
Yes, to be able to expand the business. Because as a stand, I've gotten to a level where I'm not interested of any work. Okay. I'm saying it with the openness of my heart.
Well, that's until when you decide to go into journalism.
Yes.
Or when you go into journalism, how do you intend to do it?
Oh yeah, I forgot that part.
Apart from that, before getting to there, I already have people I've coached, trained, and I have people whom I've already trained.
So definitely one day you still come to work.
Yeah, of course.
Well, at the end of the day, I feel like the Akwa Ibom State, and I think that if one more way that you can stay on top of that is if you create a cash for other people who sell agidi. Now, when you go on the street daily to sell agidi, do you interact with other agidi sellers? Is there, all of these tech woman, bakers association, they weren't industries before, but a particular person has come in and taken hold with their influence, and they've made food industry in Nigeria, and the food chain in Nigeria.
Of course, yeah, that's one of my vision. As I said on BBC, that was what I said. So I want to make sure that I have, this agidi is coming to be something that everybody will want to do it. Of course, in the future, because our dream is very big.
Okay, so one big question I'm going to ask you, should we expect that come 2023, we will no longer see you hawking agidi on the streets?
Of course, yeah. I was supposed to stop this year, but our money wasn't, we are not financially buoyant enough. So, but we believe God that between the period of this month and next month, we will try and get something.
So Moses, when you say you're not financially buoyant to start the next phase of your life, trust me, I seem not to share in that.
Because I'm going to ask.
I seem not to share in that, thought of yours, because if you're saying that you've been selling agidi for the past 4 years and you have a projection, unless you do not have a projection, or unless maybe on the lighter note, you use your monies and proceeds, to look this good. But again, if you have prospects, okay, and you begin to plan towards it. Definitely, with or without money. If you go for a business training or a business school, they tell you that money is even the last thing that you need when you want to talk about, you know, growing your business or starting a business. So let's not even say that there's not enough money. Now you've garnered a lot of publicity and exposure. You just talked about the fact that you've been on the BBC. Okay, so that alone should be like a major push for you. Now, what are the pros from all the fame and the visibility that you're getting? Is it that it's not generating any tangibles for you?
Well, it's actually not generating tangible, you know, but I'm sure of what in that aspect.
Okay.
Because our expectation, what we expected to have come out from that BBC something, they didn't come out well.
Okay, so
Anyway,
even going beyond that, we know that even in Akwa Ibom, there are empowerment programs that are being done. There's a lot of ventures in Akwa Ibom. Are there no empowerment where even if you've gone to a place and it was 50,000 given to educated Agidi, 100,000 given 50,000, 100,000 here and there, if you put it together, it will be able to establish you a kiosk in the center of town before we even go to expanding it into a restaurant?
Yeah, well, actually, I don't really have people who promise me money.
Okay.
And even when you promise me, I don't really rely on promises.
Okay.
You understand? But I pray about it.
But do you have mentors in this your business? Do you have people that mentor you and coach you, you know, in trying to do the right things, taking the right steps?
Of course, yeah.
Okay.
Of course, yes, I do.
And that's helping you a whole lot.
Anytime I see that I'm not getting it, have to go to them, say, please, this is where I'm having lapses, you know.
Okay.
So just have to tell them my, you know, my difficulties, my challenges, and they do help me. I have many of them.
Okay, I think the last question I want to ask you now before we wrap things up, because our time is gone, is are you happy doing the things you're doing?
Oh my God, I'm telling you, like, as it stands now, I feel like I should even carry the agri on my head, like, you know.
On set, right?
Like, serious, I really have, like, my joy, I can't even express my love and my joy for the business. I love the business so much. And that's why we promise the people of Akwa Ibom State and Nigeria as a whole that come 2023, we're going to have...
will be everywhere in the world.
Of course, so I'm very much happy. So because even when I'm selling, not discouraged, there is no amount of what one will use, like, will discourage me. I've grown above that level that what can discourage me in my business.
We're actually really looking forward to a next year of a business brand that outlives what it has currently done in the past 4 years. So we want to say a very big thank you to you, Moses Eteng, the very educated Agidi seller, for coming on set this morning.
Yeah.
We wish you all the best in your business.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. At this point, we just take our quote of the day, and of course, we wrap things up and leave the sets. It says, you'll never find a rainbow if you're looking down. Okay, Charlie Chaplin. You'll never find a rainbow if you're looking down. Oh, fantastic word.
Supposed to be.
Yeah.
There is an opportunity before you leverage on it and move forward.
Definitely.
So rainbows are above. Let's keep looking up and high. My name is Iyane, and I want to say thank you for being a part of the show today. We'll definitely see you again next week.
Of course, yes. My name is Janice Kobum. Never ever look down at the things you do for life. So far as it puts money in your pocket, be proud of it. That shows the ingenuity of a person and dignity in labor as well. See you again next week. Bye-bye.